Welcome chess fans. Right here, GUKESH from India. And here, DING LIREN from China. Who will win the World Chess Championship? After 6 games, I can do a recap. And what the score? 3-3. 1 with each and 4 draws. So 3-3, the match is in 14 rounds, lots of chess to unpack. Let's review the 6 games real quick. And this is game 1, and GUKESH lost his very first game in championship. Contrary to a lot of recap out there on the web, I'll go very quickly. And in game 1, there's a French defense that Dings is using. They go for this line, and over here the main line will be knight f3. But GUKESH has prepared knight ce2. We go back here, and we're still in the prep of GUKESH. And here he had prepared with his team. A normal move would be queen d2, but he goes with a lot of aggressivity, with a very aggressive move. Ding plays queen a5, trying to go outside the theory. Now they play a few moves, and here we're in this position, very, very tense. Castle and white wants to attack like that, but Ding attacks the bishop here, and the game is very complicated. And in this moment, GUKESH makes the first mistake. Bishop d4, having a very nice bishop anchored over here, will be stable. Instead, he captured with a knight. And what did he miss? He missed knight b2. A very strange move, but queen c4 is coming. The queen could go here, and then we're also attacking the 3-3 pawn. So the game goes on, and here, after queen c4, attacking a2, coming to d3, we can see that white is behind. So GUKESH tries to attack, but after queen g3 here, GUKESH doesn't want to exchange the queen, but this will be the move he missed, right? With a lot of attack for black. So in here, he plays queen e1, trying to keep the queen on the board, and he missed bishop g5, attacking the rook, and here, rook c4. And we can see that there's many threats with all the pieces of black attacking white, right? So the game goes on, but at the end of the day, this was a game where white was never in the game. Queen c4 here, attack a2, and after castle on move 31, black went on. In the final position, bishop e6 check. You have to be very careful. On king h7, that will be a mistake, because queen take, and white would win. But of course, Ding sees that, play king h8 here, and now black has queen g2, checkmate, and the a3 pass pawn, and black won. Let's see now GUKESH comeback win. And in this game, game 3, GUKESH strikes back. He opens with 1d4. So contrary to game 1 with 1e4, he goes for d4. Now they play a queen's gambit decline. Here GUKESH go for the exchange variation. And here on move 6, first surprise, queen c2. Typically, bishop g5 has been played. Bishop f4 is also possible. And here, DING LIREN wasn't prepared very well, and he plays g6. But what I would like to show you is on bishop e7, maybe GUKESH had prepared bishop f4, and over here, he can play h3 and g4 and attack. And on queen c2, if we play bishop d6, now you go for bishop g5. On castle, you play e3. And let's say a game like that, you play bishop g3. You can play h3. You can play long castle, or you can play short castle with rook c1. A lot of ideas in all these lines. Queen c2 is well placed. Anyhow, h6 play. g6 should I say. And here, h3, and even though Kramnik plays this move, this is already not well known. Bishop f5, that was the idea of g6. Not only you prepare bishop g7, but you're attacking the queen. Now the queen goes to b3, queen b6. Once again, Gukesh, very aggressive. He likes this move g4. Now we go in an endgame, and the bishop attacks b3. But the problem is that bishop here, after knight d2, that bishop doesn't have a lot of squares. So bishop f4, and then here we play knight bd7, and here knight d2. And we can see that in this game, rook c1 is a threat, and black has to save that bishop here. Rook g8, excellent move. And now on rook c1, you would have g5, and then the bishop can retreat anywhere. All right, so on rook g8, g5 played, knight h5, bishop h2, rook h8. And now the bishop can retreat to f5. f3, once again, white want to play e4. Knight g7, attacking the bishop, bishop g3. And this is, ladies and gentlemen, the key moment of the game. In here, the computer likes bishop e7, but a simple move like bishop f5 was possible. And on e4, you retreat, and on take, you would simply take, and on knight b5, this is what Ding rejected. And here, what you play, you have several moves, but you could do rook c8, and that move, trying to counterattack here, would work, and you're not worried about that check here, because the king will go to d8. So I think that was a critical line. Now, of course, bishop e7 would work, because if you take, you can take, and here you have bishop g5, which is possible, right? So I think that attacking d2 and then taking on b3. Anyhow, in here, big mistake by the world champion, and after e4, we can see that the bishop here is trapped. So now the game went on, and finally here, the bishop is trapped. So if you do that, you can simply take, attack the rook, attack the bishop. So after that, the game went on, but over here, make no mistake, white has an extra piece and collected all the pawn. There's no point to go to the game in details. Bishop h3, beautiful, and here, black resign, because the killing move is bishop f5 here, and you're attacking a lot of things, and on that move, check, and you're up a rook. So bishop f5 is a nice finish. On here, you take the rook, and if you were to move like that to protect the bishop, bishop g6, completely crushing here. So very nice game. I think that was a very nice prep. Queen c2, h3, and after bishop f5, that was clearly a game where white was pushing from the get-go. Let's see two more games. And in game 5, Gukesh returns to 1e4. And Ding plays the French again. After all, he won game 1 with black. And now, very surprising, Gukesh goes for the exchange variation. Alright. And here, Gukesh goes for the endgame again. If you remember, he won game 3 in a nice endgame where he had an extra piece. But here, this is much more symmetrical, very much a very static position, right? And now the game goes on, and once again, Gukesh loves his moves, and he plays g4. In order the queen of the board, we can see here, knight b6, excellent This knight could at some point come to a4 after bishop d7. This knight here is coming to d3. This is looking good for black, even though the position is still about equal. And here we can see all the pieces of black are very well positioned. Ding has two nice knights, the bishops are not bad, and finally the rook tries to control the one open lane. And here, knight e5, take, big mistake. In this position, Gukesh tried to take with the pawn. It absolutely had to take with the rook. And the thing is here, this position would be about equal. And now we have an equal endgame. So instead of going for an equal endgame, he tries to push for more. But here, 9g3, and now we have a very nice pawn on g3, which is passed, and the bishop can come like that. And that bishop here is pretty passive behind his own pawn. f3 played, and now Ding misses a chance to press. Very nice was rook c8, for instance, right? And on bishop f4, you do d4. And if white were to take, rook c2. That's a first miss here. Instead, he goes for knight c4, they exchange pieces, rook e4, and now there's opposite bishop, which is more drawish. And in this position, black to play. Once again, Ding Liren had to go for rook c8. Let's say that white plays king f2, then what we would do is bishop e6, right? And if we do rook d4, what would happen here? Rook c5, trying to come over here, right? And that would be very dangerous. If you do that, I can simply take. And if you do rook e3, I can do rook a5 first, a3, and then, rook b5. And how do we protect this pawn? We can't, and black is much better. Instead, bishop c6, rook d4, bishop f3, king f2, and now white controls the d2 square, attacks c4, so clearly it's not as dangerous. Here bishop c6 is not the best. The best was bishop h5, because on that, d2 wins, and on king e3, which would be much better to secure the d2 square, b5 would be very nice for black. You can see if you play a6, you would have connect 4 here, the bishop here always looking, so black has always d2 in stores. Clearly, this is a great chance here to play for the advantage with black. But instead, bishop c6 played, and the game fizzled in an opposite bishop endgame, where clearly there's no thing to do, and they repeat because black blockades the light squares and white blockades the dark squares. So they repeat after king e6, draw. Let's see one more game. And in game 6, this is Ding Liren with the white pieces, and he's going for the London system. Black Gukesh is of course prepared, and they play the theory very quickly. Over here, you could for instance play knight e5 or bishop g3, Peggy goes for a check. All this is prep, so I'll go very quickly. This has been played before, and here, after 45 seconds, Gukesh goes for e5. They trade a few pieces. And here, move 17, Gukesh messes the move. The right move is queen f3 or queen g2. Instead, he played bishop e6. That's logical because if you play a random move, then take, checkmate. So bishop e6 is very concrete. Now rook d2, and for the first time, Ding Liren will have an advantage with the white pieces. So they play, and over here, you have a better position for white. Let me explain. They trade pieces. And here, this is quite important. Ding Liren, we saw in the previous game, had a chance to push in the opposite bishop endgame with the rooks. But he went for a quiet and peaceful continuation. Over here, again, he is ahead on the clock. He has prepared the London with white, and he goes with queen d6 and is looking for a draw because after that, he's repeating with queen d6. It turns out in the game that Gukesh go from queen h4, but the game ended up with a draw. But this is very telling, and this is where I think that Ding Liren is lacking a bit of confidence, because over here, you have to go with a game with rook d1. Why is it better for white? You have 3 versus 1. So, because you have this advantage, you can try to push c4, c5. While black is behind, it's hard to push these pawns here. So that's number 1. Number 2, you can try to play for queen c4, rook d7 on the 7th rank, because you have the only open file is a d file, and you have the triple stack, meaning the 3 pieces which are loaded like the Hurricane's gun. So you have a triple force on the d file, and you should be pressing right there. But instead, they go for this continuation. And now finally after queen h4, which is dangerous by Gukesh, rook d1, and we have the triple stack again. And if I were to continue the game, very clearly there were signs that white could push. Over here in this position, Ding goes for king c2. They exchange, and then after f5, we have this nice pawn chain, e3, and black is doing fine. But instead of doing this continuation here, you had to go for queen g5, and you can see that you have some move here. Or you could go for c4, trying to push and advance, because now you still have c5 and b4, and you have some play here. That would be after that, let's say f5, you can push c5, and you're gonna continue to create some counterplay here for white. So while black has a passed pawn, this is a double-edged position. But after king c2 and f5, clearly that was a mistake, by the way, but king g7 would be fine, and black is doing fine. At the end of the day, the game ended up over here with a draw. Check, rook e2, check, and they repeated the position 3 times. So this ended up in a draw, but I think that Ding Liren missed some chances, and Gukesh is very aggressive. His game is not the best I've seen from him, but he's ready to go for a full fight. While Ding Liren is playing much better than in the recent months. However, when it comes to the critical position, he doesn't seem to have the confidence to push for a win. So we have 3-3, the match is tied, and we'll see who will prevail. Leave in the comments whether you think that Ding Liren will finally convert these advantages, or if Gukesh will be able to win convincingly like in game 3. I'll see you in the next one.